I don't know who that was he introduced, but it must be a pretty swell person. Wow. Thanks for coming. I feel like a rock star up here with this get-up. Thanks for coming. It's a pleasure to be here with you. This is an important conference. It's an important message, an important Vanguard's mission, and what Vanguard does is really important to scouting.
Same here. There, green light. I really do appreciate being here. It's wonderful to see all of you. It's wonderful to see old friends that we haven't seen for a while. And it's great to be in this area. We have moved down to Provo. We have a home still in Washington. But Provo is, well, I was born in Salt Lake City. So this is kind of home to me. And I've yanked Wayne down to Utah, and he loves it here. When Wayne and I were raising our 4 sons, we naturally enrolled them in the Scout program. And we knew that that would help keep them out of trouble. It wasn't a perfect program for doing that, however, because boys will be boys. But we knew they would learn good values, valuable skills, and of course, we thought they would have fun. But we knew also that most of the hard work would be done by the adults in the room. And so we worked hard, but we knew, again, that the Scout program was great for preparation for missions, for fatherhood, and for their careers. We have reaped the rewards and put in the hard work to date on all levels of Scouts, including the world level, as Charles mentioned. And we are more dedicated than ever. But today, as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it takes perhaps even more work and devotion to stay involved in the Scout movement. But it's definitely worth it. Wayne and I want to address the Vanguard vision today for all scouting youth in the church, guiding our scouts to Christ. We believe that everyone here can support that vision.
We're done. As members of the church, we have a great opportunity to work with the Vanguard to sustain what is an important relationship with the church and scouting. It's something that people don't understand right now, and it's been kind of challenged as a result of the church's decision. But I know that we believe that now more than ever, Vanguard's is needed and the mission is there. We would like to also make sure that you understand, so we have up there the vision, the 3 awards that the Vanguard has. If you haven't spent any time on those are really material awards. And they are important awards, and if you look at the requirements, you're going to be very impressed. And these take the place of the old Duty to God award that the church used to sponsor. When the church left, that sponsorship went away. Vanguard stepped up. Vanguard stepped up to work with the BSA to be the official sponsor of those awards, both at the BSA level and at the world level through their relationship with WISM. Where are we with the church? Oop, did I do the right? Nope, I didn't do the right thing. I got to do this one. We got pilot error here. There we go. You'd think I'd be able to run this. I could fly a jet. I should be able to run a thing like this, but that's okay. These are more challenging. Where are we with the historical view of the church? I think you all are aware that the church has had a long, long relationship with the Boy Scouts of America and scouting movement. Here's a quote from President George Albert Smith, which is a wonderful quote talking about how important scouting has been to the youth and how important it is through eternity. I think a lot of people, especially those of us that certainly because President Monson was around for so long, we think of the church as just being supported by President Monson. It goes all the way back. There's pictures of all of our prophets having supported the church or supporting scouting, and it's important to remember it goes much, much further than the wonderful dedication of President Monson. The church, as you can see, it has become, the church had the official program of the Aaronic priesthood for over 100 years. And it was a marvelous time, worked very well. It wasn't perfect. We had too many scoutmasters who were called, who didn't know about scouting and didn't have enough time. Then Charles Dahlquist used to run around giving little Philmonts, and he would say, you have to have tenure for your scout leaders. And there would be a pause. See, by that I mean 10 years. And I think that was an accurate statement because we didn't have enough that dedication. Some of the units, a lot of the units were terrific. I can guarantee you, as a scoutmaster, my unit would stand up to any unit in scouting. It was just a terrific unit with the terrific young men. But where are we today with scouting? What happens when you Google, why did the church leave scouting? What do you get number one, the church left scouting because of the scouting changes on the gay issue or girls' issues or other issues. They get that misinformation remains very important out there. And it's that misinformation that's for Vanguard to prosper. We need to correct that vision and make it clear. In 2015, you have a copy of the resolution, Scout resolution, which as a result of the legal issues that we were facing. We were facing both public accommodation statutes and discrimination statutes that required us to change. There was just no doubt about it because we were being told that legally we were just going to suffer. To give you an example of what happens when you have to fight in the legal system, the Boy Scouts of America have paid over $360 million fee. That's a lot of money. America had to pivot, and we pivoted towards religious freedom. How do we let each chartered partner, religious partner, pick their leaders and run their units according to the principles of their religion? So it was very important to do that. The church, I don't know if you know this, is a thought leader on religious freedom. Our apostles are incredible authors of articles, law reviews, and other places describing the need for religious freedom, not just for our church, but for Muslims and Jews, every form of religion. I think our leaders know that if religious freedom is curtailed, we're going to be one of the first. So they're big leaders in this area. And so the church, we decided to come with a resolution regarding religious freedom. That resolution is in your hands. I suggest sometimes you take the time to read it. I think it's very good. I hope you think it's very good because our church leaders drafted most of it. They didn't know they drafted most of it, but when I sat down to draft the resolution, I was tasked with doing that with our general counsel. I took all of the writings of our apostles on religious freedom and incorporated that in a draft. I then flew to Salt Lake with the general counsel and met with church, highest levels of the church with respect to the draft of the resolution. And this occurred before the resolution was even disclosed, the draft was disclosed to my fellow officers or fellow board members. The church was, as I say in this slide, in conjunction with, the church was very involved in drafting this resolution. And I think it's a wonderful resolution. As you can see here, the duty to God has been strengthened. It's been enhanced and made sure. I remind you that duty to God is a bookend obligation. It's the first thing in the Scout Oath and the last thing in the Scout Law. So you cannot escape the duty to God requirements in the Boy Scouts of America. As a result of, right after the resolution, right, our standards of admitting gay leaders to those units who felt that way, we also added the requirement for duty to God to be reviewed every time you do a rank advancement. I think duty to God is even more important that what is going on with Boy Scouts of America. Church, be aware of draft, very involved. There's a slide on, actually, if I advance the slide, there's a slide. Excuse me. This, many of you are not aware that the Summit Bechtel Reserve is the most important place in scouting right now. It's the home of the National Jamboree, our Leadership Center, and our East Coast High Adventure Camp. The Boy Scouts of America have put a tremendous amount of effort into making the Summit Bechtel Reserve the kind of the centerpiece of scouting moving forward. And a lot of you are not aware that the leadership complex there is called the Thomas S. Monson Leadership Excellence Complex. And that was named in recognition of Thomas S. Monson's leadership, and of course his over 50 years as a member of the board of Boy Scouts of America, longest serving member of the board of any person in the Boy Scouts of America. The naming of the Thomas S. Monson Leadership Excellence Complex was approved by the Quorum of the 12. They had a wonderful dedication, and Elder Holland and Elder Christofferson represented the 12. As you can see from the picture, if you can identify them, there's the primary presidency and the young men's presidency were also there. Elder Christofferson gave a talk at that. By the way, if you'll notice the date on this, this is a year after the Boy Scouts admitted gays and gay leaders. So the argument that the church left it, they wouldn't have had this dedication if that was the case. So I ask you to note the date. All right. This is Elder Christofferson, who is, if you've never had an opportunity to work with Elder Christofferson, and of course we all see him in his conference talk, he's whip smart. He's one smart cookie. And he was a very, very important lawyer for John Sirica and during the Watergate hearing. So he's a very accomplished attorney and very smart. And he's a very prolific writer into the area of religious freedom. And he gave an address with respect to religious freedom and how scouting's role in enhancing those freedoms. And his talk was just wonderful. And it was such a wonderful day to have this talk about how the Boy Scouts of America enhanced character, enhanced religious freedom, and to be there to dedicate that center of the Thomas S. Monson Leadership Excellence Complex. It was kind of one of the highlights of our existence. But then the world changed. Then the announcement came along that the church was doing its own worldwide program. This is from the official church announcement. And you notice the continuing support for scouting, and scouting's goals and values. Some of you may not know, scouting was only used by the church in Canada and the United States. We did not use the scouting program in England or Argentina or anywhere else around the world. And when the church all of a sudden had more members outside of the United States than in the United States, or in North America, the need for a comprehensive program was pretty clear. Elder Holland said to me once, he said, Wayne, we have people in Africa who walk 10 miles a day for their job or to get water. We cannot have a youth program based on the hiking merit badge. I said, well, that sounded pretty good to me. The church was very clear to us in our personal communications with the 12 that they left scouting not because of scouting, but because they needed a worldwide program that would be suitable for the whole, every member of the youth in the church, which, at the end of the day, as painful as that was, I think we can all understand their thing. Let's take a look at what the church program says and what it does. You look at some of these things, obviously it's for values and inclusion and for gospel principles. But you look at the fine print down there, you can see community activities, learn first aid, outdoor surviving skills. What does that sound like to you? It sounds like scouting. Look what it says here. It says learn something interesting when you need to know about. What does that sound like? It sounds like a merit badge program to me. So I think if you look at the entirety of what the church is saying, is that there's a place for these activities, which are what? Scouting. And so therefore, I think if you look at the church's own announcements, you see that scouting is entirely consistent with the new church program. The data. Scouting's got remarkable data on the effectiveness of scouting. What you're seeing here is some data from a Harris study of 2024 called The Values of Americans. And I pulled out some of those portions of that. That hasn't been released yet. Charles and we've seen those of us on the National Executive Board, we had a presentation to us, and I got permission to pull some of the slides out. They haven't officially released it yet, but Lyle and Charles and I have seen it when we were at the board meeting. And again, it shows that scouts are more religious on every criteria. Now, this isn't the only data we have about scouting. We have a lot of data that shows scouting is effective. We have the Tufts University study, which in 2015, where truthfulness, household income, voting, environmental stewardship, owning your own home, management, all of those attributes are higher for scouts. Baylor University did a long study regarding Eagle Scouts and versus non-Eagle Scouts. And 66% versus 39% are extremely close to their religion as a result of being an Eagle Scout. 2 to 1, they'll donate, Eagle Scouts to non-Scouts will donate to their religious institutions. They have better goals, they set goals, they're better environmental, then they're just better in all civic. The data is overwhelming. The scouting program works. And it's very important that we teach parents this, because parents need to know why scouting. Because one of the big issues that we face, that I think you'll all be aware of, is no time for scouting. Well, one of the things we have in this world that we didn't have when I was growing up, and even from when our children were growing up, which is the professionalism of sports. Now you have soccer leagues that are traveling soccer leagues and traveling baseball leagues, and it becomes a very difficult situation for parents because they spend such extraordinary amount of time on this and extraordinary amount of money. And you can see from the data here, this doesn't last. The sports pyramid or sports funnel is attribute. Every year, less kids stay involved in sports because it becomes so specialized and expensive. So when our parents, when we say, why not scouting? I don't have time, I have select soccer. You've got to let them know that that we have a better program and a more sustainable program for their entire family. How many of you have seen situations where you have a family and one child is the super player and the family travels around with that child, the rest of the kids become, living in hotels and in the back of a van somewhere? Well, we have a better program. We have a better way for your family and a better outcomes. I was always a baseball coach. And as a member, partial owner of the Seattle Mariners, I realized that if you talk about a funnel, I would sit down and tell these parents, look, I've seen your kids play. None of them are going to play professional baseball. None of them are going to get a scholarship. Let's just have fun. And that is so true in sporting. The kids wear out and burn out, and they need to realize that we have a better way for developing character and having fun for these young people. No time for scouting. We don't have time, right? We hear that, okay? Well, as you can see, 8.5 hours of screen time per day. Well, a good 6 minutes of that is on homework, okay? The rest of the time, when I was in the wireless business, we would see children that would do 10,000 texts a day. It's staggering what they do. You see them all the time. They can't get away from their phones. It's a real addiction. And, we talk about this fear of being left out and other things. But this scouting, there's time for scouting if parents will manage and do something more meaningful for their children. We need to communicate to them that. They need to hear these things because parents get confused. They think this is a great babysitter, and they also think that sports is a great thing. It is for that one child, but it narrows down. Elder Christofferson talked about character in his speech and character development. And I would submit that there's no better organization outside the church that will develop character than the scouting movement, especially as it's run by the Boy Scouts of America. You know, we've added girls to our program. We've always had girls in venturing and exploring, but now we've added them in Cubs and in the Scouts BSA. And it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. We've doubled our TAY, total available youth. And now we're really capable of handling all families. I think that this is something that's very important. This little lady here has been a real advocate of females in scouting. She's been working very tirelessly at the national level to bring that about and make it efficient. And she sees how important it is for these wonderful young ladies to have the benefit of the scouting program.
Thank you, Wayne. That was a great segue. Thank you for calling me little. I think. I'm not so sure. There you go. So Wayne is correct in saying that my focus, and especially working with Wayne as co-chair in the National Office of Development, the volunteer co-chair, has been primarily focused of late on helping females to better integrate into the BSA. Excuse me. When the first female Eagle Scouts celebrated their Courts of Honor in February of 2021, they opened the door of opportunity to all young women across the nation. Finally, to be able to achieve the pinnacle award historically available that was only available to boys since 1910. Now the girls could achieve this same award. More than 1,000 girls achieved that honor initially, and that was nicknamed the inaugural class of female Eagles. Today, there are more than 5,000 female Eagle Scouts. Truly, we have seen many great moments, many grand moments in these achievements. I brought the print which is on display over on the table, this print that you see in the slide, which was created by a painter named Joshua Jeremy Hunt. It's an oil. It was commissioned by Russell Smart, our wonderful friend of the summit and of scouting. And it is the large original, it's apparently very grand itself, is on display at Philmont in the museum there. So if you get a chance, take a look at it. So you are likely aware of several facts that those in the non-scouting community don't know about. One, that females have joined. I encounter people all the time who say, "Oh, really?" They have joined the Boy Scouts of America in addition to the longtime venturing and female scout leaders that we've always had. An important fact in addition that Wayne and I always stress to non-scouters is that this new acceptance of females was ratified by a large percentage of scout youth, scout leaders, and scout parents who were swayed by the ability of their whole family to participate. This is a key talking point when we're talking to non-scouters. The girls follow, and people don't know this, the same rigorous trail to Eagle as their male counterparts. Here, when we look at this chart, we see that the trend is upward for total youth involvement in scouting of females in both Cubs and Scouts BSA. Of course, we would like to see a great upward trend for all youth in the Scout movement, but our focus today is on increasing the numbers of church youth in that membership, including females. And to that end, we have a lot of work ahead. Another fact that the non-scouting community does not know is that we adhere to a linked troop design for our youth, with separate female and male troops who meet separately and or together at various times, guided by a joint troop committee. In your materials, we have included a very important fact sheet that will help you to clarify perhaps some questions that you have about linked troops, because we have encountered a lot of questions, even by scouters, as to how linked troops are really supposed to work. And there are rules regarding this. Not everyone is aware of all the rules, and not everyone in the scouting community at large follows them or adheres to them very devotedly. However, we understand that there are some situations in which it's difficult because the numbers are not there to obtain the proper quorum for troops and for leaders. So that's some of the struggles that are occurring at large. I have noted on my own, and maybe you have noticed, that there is a similarity between the linked troop design model and the linkage that we have in young men and young women programs in the church. Girls and boys are different. What a concept. Studies have shown that generally different rates occur between boys and girls of maturation. They have different abilities to focus at a younger age. They have different physicality and different activity levels. They have different learning styles. The linked troop was designed to accommodate those differences, and we especially want to, in many cases, help the boys catch up with the girls. Hence, we separate them. A lot of people in the nation at large, non-scouting communities need to be focused on that very fact, because there is some push to change so that we're totally co-ed. And we, Wayne and I, are firmly in the corner of linked troops and separating the troops, as I said, in some cases to protect the boys. We expanded the linked troop design to a wood badge course at the summit in the winter with warm accommodations and warm showers over the 5-day course. And I was honored to be the course director, as Charles mentioned, but it was for the female troop, of course. Here is a photo of our 2 full troops. We had like 54 in each troop. It was a large number. It was a wonderful experience. At that 2020 inaugural model linked troop wood badge course, many national leaders attended, and we all learned of different needs for females and males in scouting. We learned this from the participants themselves. One surprising take-home was the desire of the female troops to have their own space in a female-only environment, to talk frankly among themselves without judgment. We also learned that we needed smaller troops at this wood badge and more interaction in joint settings between the male and female participants. And this was largely requested by the male troops themselves. I, as a result, have sincerely appreciated the many scout leaders from the top down, including Wayne, who have expressly given their support to meet the challenges of females as they are integrated into scouting, even as they try to meet all of the other challenges that the BSA faces. We have noted in our leadership that admission does not necessarily equal welcome. That's a challenge among all of our scout leadership and our scout youth that we need to face and meet so that the females feel truly welcomed. Many of the challenges are due to the differences between the male and female troops or the lack of awareness of adult leaders. You know, the males have a long history. They have a long history of connections, traditions. The females are relatively new to this now, and a lot of those barriers can be remedied by better training and awareness. An outgrowth of the acknowledgement of the need to truly welcome females was the creation of the Women of Character event through the National Office of Development, held at the summit last year, part of the Jamboree, with a great planning committee that I had that consisted of individual women of character. I was honored to be the chair of that event, and it was truly a wonderful experience. You possibly know, as I have mentioned, many of the challenges that females face, and we know that female troops need to develop their own history and connections and traditions. So the BSA, in their attempt to help develop the ways and means for its members, leaders, and youth to welcome the female gender into the BSA, helped support this event. The action items included providing appropriate accommodations at camps and on hikes. Just bathrooms alone are a challenge, even at the summit, which we spent millions of dollars on wonderful bathroom facilities. But now we have to accommodate the females, and so that's on our plates at the national facility. And I'm sure it is in many, many of your camps, so that we have better shower and bathroom facilities. That's just one item, but we need more female troops, and we need more female leaders, and we need more female participants, girls. At this Women of Character event, we plan to provide guests with testimonials of the extraordinary achievements of our female scouts that they have made since forming Scouts BSA, and to encourage and receive support from our guests, financial, of course, included, for this important BSA demographic. We invited 9 female Eagle Scouts to attend and to share their stories. They were among the first to step up originally when they became Eagle Scouts, speak out. They're trailblazers. They've helped smooth the rough spots that they encountered inevitably as they were planning their first campouts. They were planning their merit badges. They were making their first trip to summer camp. And they each stood up and volunteered and led. And each one came to us with their individual stories to tell about how scouting had changed their lives. They were wonderful. Also, we learned some of the history of women's changing roles in scouting, and to illustrate some of those roles, we displayed a history of female uniforms worn by scouts and scouters that were female throughout the decades, and were generously lent to us by Kathy Robinson from her personal collection. Our keynote speaker was well-known news commentator and best-selling author Dana Perino. Dana has authored the book, Everything Will Be Okay, Advice for Young Women from a Former Young Woman. It's a wonderful book. It has many sage words of advice, oftentimes that are linked to the goals of a career, but they are also applicable to all phases of life. She has also founded a mentoring program for young women, so she was very appropriate for our venue and our keynote speaker. She was famously only the second female press secretary in the nation. She shared her unique experiences that night as she navigated the challenges that came along with being in the George W. Bush White House. So those are always fascinating. She did a fantastic job of relating her own feelings and her own solutions as she climbed the ladder of her career in very challenging situations. And some of those situations called for strong ethical choices. The girls and the guests were very impressed with her presentation. They loved it. They stated that afterwards. And they saw that she was a genuinely caring person. And she has since followed up, even though she's a very busy woman, with suggestions and advice for us as scouts overall. Take a look at the video that she made for her show, The Five, the following Monday.
Hey, I want to tell you about something I did this weekend. I gave a speech at the Scouts Jamboree in West Virginia. It was an amazing experience. These are 11 Eagle Scouts. These girls are so inspiring. America is in great hands with the boys and the girls that were there. 8 days of camping in West Virginia at the Scouts Jamboree. I love the experience. You should feel like America's in great hands with these young people.
We were so thrilled when she put that on the TV the next Monday. It was just awesome. As you saw in the video, we showcased 9 of the Scouts. She had it at 11, but that's okay. We'll forgive her. The Scouts, BSA's first female Eagle Scouts, and we saw them in action at the National Jamboree. We began to understand some of these young women's triumphs and challenges. They're representative of more than 130,000 girls who wear the BSA uniform today. They are pictures of courage and leadership and courage in scouting. As we hoped, they were the stars of the event. That night at our Women of Character event, in addition to honoring women of character, we made our request for financial support from our guests, and happily, Dana Perino was so impressed that she and her husband Peter were among the many who contributed to our Females in Scouting Fund that we established to target the needs of females at this time. As you can see in the final image of the video, we were able to unveil, and the girls helped us, this beautiful bronze statue at the summit to be permanently displayed there that was made by a West Virginia sculptor named Jamie Lester, and he named it Flight of the Eagle.
Aspiring Eagles, something like that.
No, Ascending Eagle.
Ascending.
Ascending Eagle. I always get that mixed up. Okay, Ascending Eagle. And that was provided by a generous donor. So we're very appreciative of that.
I think we can all say that, look, scouting values are church values. There's a consistency here and alignment of values that are very important. The church's program is consistent with the scouting program. And it's important for us to inform our scouting families of that connection and that alignment, perfect alignment. And it's important that we support Vanguard's efforts. Vanguard's critical to making more members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to become members of our scouting family. And because now we have women in ours, we're a whole family, one shop's place to go. We can take care of all their needs, and it will work consistent with the time and energy and costs that are available for scouting. Scouting is a value. We have a granddaughter our son spent over $20,000 one year on her cheer, okay? Scouting is a screaming value. And so it is not, parents pay such extraordinary amounts for these other activities. This is not a financial issue. This is a focus issue, and we need to tell them the rewards of scouting.
So, in conclusion, the Scout program, as you have seen, is vital. It works, but it's vital at this time, especially to our nation and society. I know that we all feel that. That's why we're here tonight. We know that studies show a strong correlation with individual success in every aspect of life of a Scout, including and fundamentally in religious life. Those Scout values, specifically religious values, are Vanguard's primary focus, as you know. They are part of our all-important vision of sustaining those connections that we share with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We have a testimony of the Church of Jesus, of the gospel of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We have a testimony of scouting and its values. We want to meld the two. We want to give you talking points. If you need more data, we'll try to dig it up for you. But that's our goal. Our vision is to guide more Scouts to Christ. And it can be incorporated in the LDS youth program. Let us all strive, as we leave today, to act upon this vision, to bring more youth in our church and in our families to Christ through this wonderful Scout program.
Thank you.